Okay, so yesterday we spoke about all of the goals that I have for 2021, and I have a lot of them, so feel free to go check that out. Today, we are going to be looking back on all the goals that I made for 2020 to see if I actually accomplished them or if I'm a total and utter failure. So I did some goals in January of 2020, and I also did some new goals in October of 2020. We're going to go through them all. So we're going to be cutting back and forth with clips from past Mr. Francy to present Mr. Francy and see how all of that went. So let's get right into it. My overall goal is to read this year because, as I said, in 2018 and 2019 I read nothing. I had to come up with a number of books that I wanted to read. You know what, I'm going to be fair to myself, I haven't read for over 2 years, so let's average it out to one book a month, and let's make my target 12 books for 2020. Yep, I more than achieved this goal. So I am currently reading my third last book for the year, and provided I get through that one and then the last two, I should reach 125 books read for 2020. Goal number 2, I would like to buddy read at least 2 books. Yes, I achieved this. I did read at least 2 buddy reads. Actually, I read more. So the first book that I buddy read in 2020 was The Personal Demons by Lisa Desrochers. This was a book that I buddy read with my best friend. And I also want to give a shout out to The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, a book that I also buddy read, as well as The Christmas Box, which I have not read yet. It is the next book I'm going to read, but this book is going to be buddy read as well. So goal number 3, I would like to read 1 or 2 books that my subscribers suggest. This was also a success. So the very first book that I read that a subscriber suggested to me was this book, The Bizarre Book of Bad Dreams by Stephen King, From Scratch by Tembi Locke. And the final book that I read that was a recommendation from a subscriber was The Forest of Silence, the book 1 in the Del Toro Quest series. Goal number 4, read 1 book that a fellow booktuber suggests. You can look around here, like 90% of the books that I read this year came from booktuber recommendations. That is like an infinity check on that one, because 80 to 90% of the books that I read this year were recommended by booktubers. Goal number 5, to DNF any books I don't enjoy. I definitely did that this year, and I recently did a video covering all of the books that I DNF'd in 2020. For those of you who don't know, DNF stands for did not finish. You pick up a book and something about it makes you put it down and not pick it up again, so you don't finish it. And I think I DNF'd, a good number, like 14, 15, maybe more. In case you were wondering, I do not have a goal to read an ebook. For me, I love holding a physical book. That's just the way it is for me. This goal of not reading any ebooks because I didn't want to, also because I have incredibly sensitive eyes that are sensitive to all types of light, so it would make it really hard to do, really became a tough one for me to stick to, as in, because it's not available as a physical, if I could have read it as an ebook, it would have made my life so much easier, is what I mean. But I did stick to this. Goal number 6, and this is a really interesting one, and that is to read at least 1 fanfic or 1 fiction press book. Oh my gosh, I can tell I did this in January because I've really not gone back since the early months of my booktube career to fanfic or fiction press. I am currently in the midst of writing 2 completely separate books, and whenever I finish them, I most likely will put them up on fiction press. I did read a book from fanfic very early on in my booktube career because of that goal, and I do not remember what it was called. I think I thought it was called Dare Chess, but it wasn't. But anyway, it was a Harry Draco slash, so this is a genre of fan fiction books dedicated to the Harry Potter world, where they take two male characters and put them into a relationship. And in this particular one, it was Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy. Goal number 7. This is more to do with my channel. My 7th goal is to upload one video a week reviewing what I have read so far. Now, I don't know what I'm going to call this. I don't know whether I'm just going to call it the name of the book or if I'm just going to call it my reading vlog for that week or whatever, but that is a goal that I really want to set. So this is a really interesting goal to look back on, especially considering my most recent video where I talked about my goals for 2021. So I started off doing, I think both. I did reviews and reading vlogs, but my reading vlogs to begin with was just one vlog with me at the end of the week summarizing what I had read, but I also did in-depth spoiler and spoiler-free reviews of books. But I definitely did this as far as weekly reading vlogs were concerned. I have a weekly reading vlog that covers every single week bar one. I did successfully put out a weekly reading vlog for every single week from the moment that I started in BookTube, but as I said, this is not going to be the case in 2021 because things will change, but I succeeded in this goal bar 1 week. So, yay! I don't necessarily have this as a goal, but I'm thinking that another goal that I should have is to let you guys know what I'm reading every month. So, yeah, I will probably do some kind of video as well every month saying what I plan on reading that month. Yeah, I not only did that, and so let's tick that off. I did that every single month. I call it my monthly TBR because that's what it's called on BookTube. TBR, in case you don't know, stands for To Be Read, and those videos, whether it's me or anyone else, talks about all the books you plan to read over a certain time frame. For me, it was every month. I have January all the way through to December TBRs on my channel, and one of my goals for 2021 is to make sure that I do another 12 of those. I also end up doing monthly wraps where I spoke to you guys at the end of the month about all those books that I had said I was going to read at the beginning of the month. Yes, I succeeded in that goal. Woo! My 8th and final goal is to upload one fun video a month. So this will absolutely be a video to do with reading, but it will not be about what I am reading. So while the other 4 videos that I will upload every month, while they are going to be directly about the book or books that I'm reading at that moment, these fun videos, these one fun videos that I'll do per month will be to do with reading, but they won't be about the books I'm reading themselves. It'll be about reading in general. Yeah, I did succeed in this as well. So I started uploading a video series that I was literally calling Fun Video. So it would be like January Fun Video, February Fun Video. And then I just kind of got over calling it a fun video. And what I was trying to say then, and I didn't really know the terminology because I was literally just starting out, like I think this was like day 1 or 2 of my BookTube career when I did this video, but I was basically trying to say I want to create videos that I come up with myself, where I'm just, you know, really creative and come up with my own ideas to talk about books in general, and I ended up doing that. So I dropped the term fun video of the month, but I still did fun videos every single month. So yeah, you can go back and check through all the months that I, you know, have been on BookTube so far, and you'll see that there is at least one fun type video for every single month. So now we're going to fast forward from Past Mr. Francy to another Past Mr. Francy, but this time at the end of September, I do believe, or towards the end of September, where I did some more goals for myself because, and I literally wrote this in the title of the video, because I'm nuts. So I had 2 goals in that one, and I want to make sure that I completed those as well. And that goal is to finish off complete series that I have started. The Selection series. I've read The Selection, book 1. I've read The Elite, book 2. And I've read The One, book 3, but I still have 4 books to go. Okay, completing open-ended series. So starting with The Selection, at the time of recording that video, I had read The Selection, The Elite, and The One, and I needed to complete these books. So I did read The Air, Time Jump in this book that I didn't like. It got 4 stars. Aside from the time jump, I did enjoy it. The Crown, I gave 5 stars. I cried twice at the end of this book. Happy tears. It was really good. Happily Ever After, I chose not to read, so I guess maybe you can call it a failure if you're one of those that says one thing makes you a failure. But yeah, I actually chose not to read this one. It's a compendium of short stories that you don't have to read for the series. I just opted not to. Maybe I'll read in the future, but I don't promise. The Reckoners series by Brandon Sanderson. So book 1 is Steelheart. I've read this already. Book 2, Firefight, I've read already, and Calamity, which is book 3, the third and final book in the Reckoners series, I'm actually currently reading, so I will be able to check off this series by the end of this month. So, as I said, I had read Steelheart. I then replaced Firefight and Calamity with the US editions because I just think they're a lot more beautiful. That's just my opinion. And I had read Firefight, but I was saying that I was going to be reading Calamity that month, and I did, and I don't remember what I gave this. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. It was one of the two. But I really enjoyed this series. When I first went into reading Steelheart, I thought it was a fantasy because it's Brandon Sanderson, and all I'd read from Brandon Sanderson so far was fantasy. I didn't know he did other books, let alone YA, but I really enjoyed the Reckoners series a lot. So that's an unpopular opinion. Not everyone loves this series, but I did. The Bloodlines series by Rochelle Mead. In August of 2020, I read Bloodlines. In next week, actually, I'm going to read book 2, which means that this series does qualify. Hi, Mr. Francy, past Mr. Francy. It's now the end of December and it's time to check back in, and you're going to be a little bit disappointed, past Mr. Francy, because this series did not get completed, and I'll explain why. So, I had just come off reading the Vampire Academy series, which I had a bit of an up and down experience with, but the final 2 books in that series, book 5 and 6, book 5 received 5 stars, book 6 received an overwhelming 5 stars. Then I picked up Bloodlines, book number 1, and this received 5 stars as well. It was so amazing, and I was riding this high and thought, I can do this. I can close out Bloodlines. It will not be easy, but even if I read 2 books in 1 month or 2 books every month or whatever, I will get through this. This is going to be great. And then I picked up the disaster that was The Golden Lily. This book was so horrible that I had to find a way to amuse myself while reading this book, and so I did. I came up with little theories about little things as I went along, which is not what you're inspired to do. You are not inspired to have theories. This is not a detective mystery thriller or anything like that. This is a paranormal book, and I had to do that just to entertain myself because it was so horrible. This book received the lowest rating that I have ever given Rochelle Mead, which is 2 stars. I had already purchased the Indigo Spell, but as you can see, the tabby, which is a little bent, but it's still there because I never started it. The tabby is only there when I'm doing my TBR videos. Once I've read the book, or once I start the book, I take the tabby out and replace it with a bookmark. I have not picked this book up because this one disappointed me so much. So, as for the Bloodline series, this was an epic fail. Arc of a Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. So I read Scythe quite a few months ago, and I read Thunderhead in, I believe it was in August. And there's one more book to be read, The Toll. Yep, so I did complete the Arc of a Scythe series. I had already read Scythe and Thunderhead, as I'd said, and what happened was, okay, so I love Scythe, I gave it 5 stars. Thunderhead was okay, but the ending was really, really amazing. I think I gave it like 4 stars or something. And then, with The Toll, I kept putting it off, and it was only because I just didn't get to it. I was putting it late in my TBRs, and I just wasn't getting to it. So eventually I finally read it. It was an absolute letdown, and this is just my recommendation, and Mr. Neil Shusterman is not going to like me for this, but I like to be honest on my channel. If you've read these 2 and you absolutely loved them, my recommendation is to quit while you're ahead and just enjoy the fact that you love these 2. This one just really let me down. I don't feel like we needed this book, despite the fact that this book ends on a cliffhanger. Yep. Okay, I understand if you've just finished reading this one that you're going, but Mr. Francy, I need to read this because I need to know what happens after that ending. I get it. It takes until halfway through the book until we get that resolution. We hear nothing about what happened at the end of this book until halfway through this one, because we're filling the first half of this book with total and utter nonsense, in my opinion. But the ultimate point of this is that I did finish this series, the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I read this book and gave it 5 stars. I read book 2, Insurgent. I don't remember what I gave this book, honestly. And there's literally only one more book left to close out the series, Allegiant. At the time of filming, I do plan to include this series as a part of my goal, so I do plan to read Allegiant by the end of 2020 so that I can close off this series. As you saw in post-editing with the writing on the bottom of the screen, my bookstore did not have Allegiant, so I had to find another way to get it, and turned out that was a fortuitous circumstance because it allowed me to replace the editions that I had of Divergent and Insurgent for the American covers, which are so much better, and hardcovers to boot. So I now have this for Divergent and this for Insurgent. Not really a fan of Insurgent, but I love this Divergent cover much better than the other one. I'd already read these two, and I just had to read Allegiant, and yeah, that was this book. So this is the exact same story as the Arc of Osiris series, in that I had already read these, just need to read this, loved the first one in this. By the time I got to this, I was extremely disappointed. But the point is that yes, I did complete the Divergent series, and in fact Divergent went on to become my 2020 favourite dystopian world for the year. So my favourite dystopian world with this. But this one, disappointed, but did finish the series. The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger. So I didn't plan to read this book in the month that I did. It just replaced a book that I didn't finish. Revenge Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger. Now, I really, really loved this book, and when I found out that there's a book 2, I knew I had to read it. This is a duology. There's no third book in the series. So if I can just read this one book, I can close out this series as well. Yeah, so I was saying to you guys earlier how I love DNFing so much because there were many times after I DNF'd that the next book I picked up, I gave it 5 stars. And The Devil Wears Prada, this past Mr. Francy video that I did in late September proved that. As I was saying, I had just come off DNFing a book that incredibly disappointed me. Ha! It was The Black Prism. Yeah, swearing many times and the use of urine, and it really in the magic system, which really disappointed me. Then I picked up this book and gave it 5 stars. So I mean, again, it just goes to show you DNF and you're rewarded. But anyway, all I needed to do was read this book, the second book in the duology, Revenge Wears Prada, to complete this series. I did. This series is now complete, and I have a lot of love for Lauren Weisberger. I want to give an honourable mention to the second book that I read this year, Personal Demons by Lisa Desroches. There is a second book in this series. There might be more. I'm going to need to do some research to see how many books are in this series and see if it's actually possible to finish out this series with everything else that I plan to do. Yeah, so as I said in post-editing, writing on the screen, it wasn't possible for me to complete the series in 2020, but I am completing it in 2021. In fact, this book is raring and ready to go right down here in this section, because right here is where I'm keeping my January TBR, and this book is there. Skyward, I read this book this month. I'll talk to you about it in my monthly wrap-up. This is currently a duology. I think Brandon Sanderson plans to write more than just 2 books, but currently there's only 2 books that he has published in this series, and I do have Starsight, which is book 2, on the way. At the time of filming, I don't have Starsight on me, but I've purchased it, and so it's on the way. Hopefully it will make it in time, and if it does, then I can read that book and effectively close off this series, or at least what has been published up until, I would say, the end of 2020. Okay, Skyward. Yeah, so I'd finished this one. It's really interesting that I wanted to make a point of closing out this series in 2020. Had I known then what I know now, I would have held off, because the third book in the Skyward series, which has only about a week ago been officially announced to be called Nowhere. We actually knew this on this channel a couple of months ago, but then it was denied, and then it was officially confirmed by Brandon Sanderson, but we'll let that go. Nowhere is going to be released in 2021. So had I known knowing that then, back when I did that goals video in the end of September, I would have held off with this series and said I plan to finish it in November when book 3 comes out. But I'd already finished this one. I did go on to finish this one, so I did close out these two, and I will be reading Nowhere in 2021, the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. So this was something that I had planned before I began to read book 3 in the Mistborn series. So this was something I was planning in the end of March, the beginning of April, but it was something that I wasn't planning to read until the end of the year anyway. So there were, at that time, 3 books in the Stormlight Archives. The first book being The Way of Kings, the second book being Words of Radiance, and the third book being Oathbringer. So, this plan seemed like it was foolproof. In October, read The Way of Kings. In November, read Words of Radiance. And in December, read Oathbringer. And then Mr. Brando Sando, as I like to affectionately refer to him as, he's going to release the 4th book in the Stormlight Archives, which means that I can't complete the Stormlight Archives by the end of the year. Okay, we're going to cut that off there because I can't believe how long I took to explain one simple thing. It goes to show things that you learn over the course of, even 3 months, because I'm now much more succinct. Okay, the Stormlight Archives, which are very heavy to hold because of how long they are. I nearly said a word I didn't want to say there. Okay, The Way of Kings. Yes, I finished that and I gave it 4 stars all in all. Book 2, Words of Radiance, you will hear more about very soon. 5 stars. And Oathbringer, I gave 4.5 stars to this one. And Rhythm of War, which I'll put up there, is out currently. However, I already knew that there was no way that I was going to complete Rhythm of War in 2020 because I was only reading Oathbringer this month in December, and I want to read one Stormlight Archives book every month because they're so long. This book, I'll put it over here. This book is 1,200 pages long, so there's no way I want to read more than one per month anyway. But I recently did a video that I'll put up there, which was called Why I Love Graphic Audio, where I spoke about how I love listening to graphic audio when I read Brandon Sanderson's books. I spoke in that video about how the Rhythm of War will not be released as a full set package of the entire book until the end of 2021. So I'm going to put this one on hold until graphic audio has the entire book available at the end of 2021. But as for these 3, yes, I finished all of them and I love this world. Massive shout out to Kaladin. He's my second favourite character of 2020. And yeah, if I could have a dinner party, I'd be inviting both Ks, K and K, Kaladin and Kelsier. Okay. These are books that I purchased prior to April 2020. And they've just been sitting there and I have not read them. So, I probably have a total of about, I'm going to guesstimate here and say probably about 50 books that are just sitting there that I haven't touched since the beginning of April, and it's starting now to drive me a little bit insane. So, because of this, I have decided that I am going to start drawing from those books and including them into my TBR. So the goal that I wrote on the screen was to read books from my pre-April TBR. That we can check off because I did do that. But I became more and more specific as I went along talking about it because I got to a point in this video where I was just waffling on and on and on. I'm doing it again. So I'm learning clearly. So what happened was I had a bucket and it's actually still here. This one. Do you remember this, guys? And I would draw out little slips of paper that had the names of every single book that I had purchased and placed onto my TBR prior to April of 2020. And I believe every month I chose 2 books. We're going to be fair and call this a fail because I kind of did half. I planned to read 6 of those books that I had on my pre-April TBR, and I drew 2 in October, read both of them, drew 2 in December, read 1 of them, and drew none out of 2 in December. So we're going to call that a fail. And that is it. So to summarize, I think I've done pretty well this year. I'm pretty happy that I was able to achieve all the goals, well, most of the goals, not all of them. Most of the goals that I did set for myself for 2020. How did you go with any of the goals you have for 2020, be they book related or otherwise? Let me know in the comment section below. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave that there and let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell for all those notifications, all those good things. I now post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and Merry Christmas!